don't want my talk today to come across as some kind of exercise in self-promotion or anything like that. And I certainly don't want my talk to come across today as a lecture on how to be successful in postgraduate studies from someone holding the proverbial keys to, or secrets to success, if I only had those keys or secrets. Ostensibly, I've been asked to speak about my postgraduate experience. But what I hope to do is to recount this individual experience more broadly as an experience of a Kwantlen alumnus who, shaped by his rich experience at Kwantlen, and who was equipped with the tools and the confidence to go on and pursue postgraduate work. Ultimately, I'll address some of the opportunities and indeed the challenges along the way. So, although I don't like talking about myself, I do see great value in sharing experiences, and that's what I'd like to do today. And let me just add, if I can be of further assistance to anybody in this room today beyond this session, please don't hesitate to contact me. I've put my contact information up on my one slide that I have. Now, Kwantlen was a slightly different place when I was enrolled here some years ago. Among the differences, the name, Kwantlen University College. And yes, tuition. Tuition was much, much cheaper. My cohort, those students that began their academic pursuit at the time of my arrival at Kwantlen, and those continuing their education to this day, have experienced a tuition increase every year for the last decade. So from the outset of my talk, and consistent with my research interests, general research interests in the increasing dismantling of the welfare state, as well as the increasing neoliberalization of higher education, I want to acknowledge the financial concerns of all students here, and especially those that are considering postgraduate studies, as this is the area of our seminar here today. It's fine and well to talk about postgraduate experiences, but to gloss over the financial considerations attached to this pursuit would be, dare I say, disingenuous. Plus, all conversations towards access to education should acknowledge the unfortunate yet perennial financial considerations of all students. These were the concerns that these were concerns of mine when I arrived here some years ago, and they're still concerns for me to this day. When I entered the postgraduate system in Scotland in 2007, it was a much different place then than it is today. This was the pre-global financial recession era, but only by a few months, in fact. When I was in Scotland in 2007 and 2008, I vividly remember the images on the BBC of the first bank run of its kind in 2007. People literally lined up on the sidewalks outside the doors of the Northern Rock, the British banking system, waiting to withdraw their life savings. Something was definitely wrong at this point. The context and relevancy for us here today, of course, is, well, successive years of macroeconomic policy reform that, well, in light of this recession, would have an impact on the way in which prospective students in the UK and Canada and beyond access, and not only access, but also experience postgraduate studies, but also undergraduate studies as well. We've seen a definite retrenchment of public expenditures under the auspices of a global financial crisis, and with that purported need for fiscal restraint. Though, as we're aware, this economic program is simply an extension and indeed standardization of a broader neoliberal model of development that has dominated development over the last 40 somewhat years. This has included, of course, a gradual shift to a user-pay model for most public goods and services, including education, and I suggest we keep our eye out on the BC Ferries at the moment. A retail-oriented model of funding, which inevitably comes with, well, increased user fees over time. Over the last 30 years, government funding for higher education in Canada has increased by 26%. That is from 84 to 58% of university operating budgets. Stats Canada reports in 2012 and 2013, tuition fees for graduate students in Canada has increased by an average of 4.5% across the country. That was in 2012 and 2013, and that is off following a 3.7% increase just the year before, in 2011 and 2012. This translated into a 2% increase for postgraduate students in British Columbia in the same year, in 2012-2013. But BC postgraduate students were already paying the highest tuition fees across the country until Nova Scotia surpassed us just this year. All of this is simply to provide context to my discussion. I don't want our glowing reports of higher education to neglect or negate the very real and much needed discussions that we need to have about our material interests as students. So now that the doom and gloom is, I've noted all of the doom and gloom, let me also say that I encourage anyone thinking of postgraduate studies to do all in the realm of possibility to meet and address those unfortunate financial considerations. Because once you get down to the work of postgraduate studies, once you get into the nitty-gritty, once you're in that overall experience of postgraduate world, it is ever so rewarding. But let me just first round out the story about how I got to Glasgow from Surrey. Kwantlen for me was, well, it was a transformative time in my life. It was a time when I began questioning the world around me. I wasn't sure of my purpose at Kwantlen. I wasn't sure of the purpose of my life in general. I was beginning to question the status quo at this point, as a result of various personal experiences, epiphanies, and political awakenings at the time. And I received the incomparable commitment by many Kwantlen instructors to travel that road with me. I'm sure many of you can attest to this experience. I began peeling back the layers of the structures and processes that previously I knew not of, the taken for granted, the often misrepresented. And 12 years on, I'm still seeking explanations and asking new questions. But it was here at Kwantlen that I got my start. But more importantly, it was here at Kwantlen where my passion for social and environmental justice issues was not only encouraged, but indeed it was nurtured. Now, at the time of my enrollment at Kwantlen, I had no choice but to pursue my third and fourth years of my undergraduate degree elsewhere. I was accepted at Simon Fraser University. And at SFU, well, it was at SFU where I realized what I had actually received at Kwantlen. Notwithstanding the rich, the rich theoretical grounding in social theory and great relationships and all that. But on a more practical level, it was the intimate interactions in the smaller classroom settings that a larger university couldn't always offer in the first two most influential years of an undergraduate's experience. This is where I became comfortable linking theory to practice in classroom discussions, something a graduate student will be required to do for the duration of their studies. This would bode well for me going into my third year at SFU as the classrooms were getting smaller for all upper level students. And it certainly worked to my advantage upon entering graduate study courses later on, where you would often find yourself in a room of 7 to 10 students with a professor talking advanced social theory for 3 to 4 hours. This was a very real takeaway from my time at Kwantlen. Upon finishing my degree at Simon Fraser, I stayed on there to pursue and complete a master's degree. And following that, with the advice of my then supervisor at SFU, I decided to go overseas. I decided to go overseas not only to experience a different educational system and culture altogether, but also to have a different set of eyes review my work. This was and still is extremely important for all graduate students. It serves as a test of the global relevancy of your work, and it tests the substantive applicability of your work in the context of a different political and cultural system altogether. So that's where I'm at currently, finishing writing up my PhD dissertation at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. My experience at Glasgow, and I'll try to wrap up pretty quick here, it's been extremely fruitful. From my supervision, which has been absolutely first class, to the departmental support, all of the departmental support, knowing that I was away from my home as an international student and away from my wife. There was great support. To the financial support by way of international studentship awards and North American studentship awards. I've also, and most importantly, formed lifelong professional and personal relationships in Scotland, in Europe, and beyond. And this, I think, is the richness of graduate school. The possibilities are tremendous. And yes, it is true in Glasgow, the conversations from the lecture theatre to and the seminars flow seamlessly into the pub. It's fantastic. But I mentioned financial support. From a financial point of view, things and times have changed. But even still, I recommend all those interested in pursuing postgraduate studies to exhaust all financial assistance opportunities. Talk to financial aid officers, talk to financial award offices and officers, talk to international advisors and seek out those little bits of information that you may not necessarily find online. Talk to the head of the department of the potential school, talk to potential supervisors, talk to heads of postgraduate schools, and so on and forth. Just talk to people. These conversations will better inform you about the possibility of graduate school. Equally as important, beyond talking about your financial considerations, start talking about the plan. From a research point of view, what interests you? Which institution is best suited to meet those research needs? And who is best suited to support you in terms of supervision? These are some of the most critical questions that you'll ever ask in your life as a student, because, well, you'll spend the next 5 to 7 to 10 years with these people. So talk to people concerning these plans. Talk to your instructors and professors here. They may know of people interested in working with you and or appropriate institutions where you may pursue your research interests. Talk to instructors and professors whose interests align with yours. In fact, it was upon the suggestion of an instructor here at Kwantlen in 2001 that I attend a conference at UBC on water. And I thought, well, I know nothing about water. This was a first or second year sociology class. Well, you know, all these years later, here I am writing a PhD dissertation on the political economy of water. So talk to your instructors and professors. When completing my undergraduate degree at Simon Fraser, I met up with a professor who became somewhat of a mentor to me over the years as I took many of his classes over the years. I talked with him about the possibility of grad school, and more specifically about working with him if I was to be accepted. He assisted with me in conceptualizing not only a research problem, but also writing up a statement of interest for my application. I ended up working under his supervision for 3 years. So again, talk. And I will stop in just 2 seconds here. The same happened to me with my experience as a PhD student. It was at the tail end of my PhD, my master's research, when I came across a report on the increasing liberalization and commercialization of Scottish water. Well, I decided to look up, once I completed my master's defense, look up the authors of that report. It was a simple email exchange, and this relationship was established. This report was authored by a group of authors at the Public Interest Research Network in Glasgow, based out of Strathclyde. And I ended up working for this research institute, and one of those authors happens to be still my supervisor to this day. So talk. The last thing I would say is match this talking and this research with your passion. Make sure this research is a passion. And ask yourself, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I doing this to make myself or build my character, and also at the same time give back to my community and or pursue goals of social and environmental justice? And if the answer is yes, then I think you're doing the right thing. There's many sacrifices with postgraduate work, but what you'll gain from it is truly immeasurable. So thank you for having me.